What is up, you guys? I am Missy Renee, and in today's video we're going to talk about being double-minded and how this affects your manifestation practice. And speaking of manifestation, if this is a topic that you are interested in learning more about, then definitely do not forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon so that way you're notified when I release new videos every week. If you're interested in more resources such as one-on-one coaching or my brand new membership group, I will have those linked down in the description box below, so definitely don't forget to check them out. Being double-minded is one of the main reasons why you may be failing to manifest, or why you may not be seeing any movement in your 3D, why things might not be moving in the direction that you want them to go. And I've touched on this on videos in the past, but today I want to dig a little bit deeper on this topic because it is one of the fundamental ones to understand and one to be mindful of in case you might be falling in this habit, in this pattern, which is very, very common for a lot of people to fall into. So if this is something that you are interested in learning more about, if you are new and perhaps struggling to manifest and you're not quite sure why, then definitely stick around through the end of the video because we're going to talk all about what it means when we're double-minded, how this affects us, and most importantly, some tips on how to overcome it and to stop being double-minded so that we can finally manifest whatever it is that we want. So diving right into this, what exactly does it mean when we're double-minded? In short, being double-minded means being undecided. It's when you're going back and forth between living in the end and reacting to the 3D, getting overcome with doubt, questioning the process, and fumbling altogether, and then going back and forth and back and forth. In essence, it's the yo-yo effect. And I would argue that this is probably one of the most challenging things for people to overcome when we're new at this, because virtually everyone falls into this conundrum when we're starting out. Naturally, our whole lives we have been guided to respond and react to our 3D environment. And what we're taught about manifesting is going directly against everything that we have been taught growing up. So right off the bat, this is going to cause a little bit of conflict, and this is going to cause most people, I would argue, to go back and forth between living in the end, between feeling your desired outcome, and reacting and responding to the 3D. One moment you may be doing great, you may be feeling wonderful, you may be feeling confident, and you've got this, and you're on a roll, and everything's going your way. And then the next day or the next moment, you're all of a sudden completely doubting yourself. You're not sure if you're able to do this. Your confidence has dwindled, and you're left feeling stuck and unsure of what you're going to do next. And it's the going back and forth that Neville would describe as somebody who is being double-minded. And this back and forth habit is something that we really want to get out of doing. We want to break this habit as soon as we can. Because as most of you know, if you've watched my channel, if you've watched previous videos, we manifest based on the current state or the dominant state that we dwell in. And the dominant state that we dwell in is determined by our concept of self. It's determined by our beliefs, our assumptions, our reactions, our mood, our expectations. All of those combined form your self-concept. And whatever that self-concept may be is going to determine the state or the reality that is ultimately going to wind up being your experience. And when we are going back and forth like this, we are effectively moving into the desired state, but not occupying it long enough for it to become the dominant state. And we're not occupying it long enough to see our desires unfold in the 3D. So this act of being double-minded is the main reason that we experience these time delays. It's the main reason that some of you may have been studying and practicing how to manifest for quite some time and have yet to see any results. This is the reason why things might not be showing up for you, even though you may have been at this for quite some time. And to understand a little bit better just how much this affects us, we have to have an understanding of what time really is. Because our current perception of time is just an illusion. There is not a linear time in which we are traveling through from point A to point B. What we are actually doing, as I mentioned a moment ago, is we are constantly picking and choosing and selecting different states or different realities to experience. And these states, again, are determined by the body of beliefs that we carry, by the self-concept that we carry, by the mood and by the assumptions that we carry. And the key to all of conscious creation, the key towards all of manifestation, is to consciously move into your desired state through your imagination. It's through our imagination that we are able to feel that desired state. And once we have done that, once we have successfully felt ourselves occupying that state, once we've felt ourselves living in the end, once we have felt ourselves living as the person that we desire to be, we have successfully selected that state. But this is only half of the equation. Once we have selected the new state, we must continue to occupy it. We must continue to feel ourselves as the person that we desire to be, or experiencing ourselves as having the thing that we desire to have. This is something that we carry with us as much as possible, because this is the way that the new desired state becomes our dominant state, the state that we keep returning to, the state that becomes the familiar, comfortable state. So once we have been able to live in the end and really sustain that feeling and walk with conviction through our day that what we have imagined is now ours, this is how your bridge of incidents unfolds. And this is how you are moved from where you are to where you desire to be. This is how things will unfold for you in your 3D. But what usually ends up happening for most people when they are new at this is that they will begin to feel themselves in that state. They will feel themselves in the desired end. They will be able to go into imagination and occupy that desired state, but then a few moments later or a day or two later, they have something happen, whether it's a reaction to the 3D, or all of a sudden they're overcome with doubt, overcome with uncertainties, overcome with questioning, and where is it? Why am I not seeing it? Why is it not here yet? What am I doing wrong? All of these doubtful, uncertain, unwanted feeling is going to take over. And when that happens, you ultimately wind up just reverting back to the old dominant state, the unwanted state, the state that you feel the most comfortable and familiar with, but ultimately is not one that's going to serve you and what you want. And this process of moving back and forth between our desired state and reverting back to the dominant unwanted state is the reason that we see time delays. This shows up in our perception as a time delay or a time lag, when in fact the reason that things are not showing up even after you've been doing this for several months or maybe a year or longer is because you're being double-minded. You're going back and forth and back and forth, and you are not living in that end state for long enough so that it becomes the dominant state that you dwell in and thus becomes your 3D experience. So for those of you who have been doing this for a while and have not seen any results, you got to ask yourself some tough questions, and you got to answer honestly. How often are you returning to that unwanted state with all the old doubts and fears and insecurities? How often do you imagine living in the end and feeling that wish fulfilled just to turn around and acknowledge the 3D unwanted scenarios? As Neville used to often say, Are you willing to believe the opposite of what your senses dictate? And I'm going to give you guys an excerpt from Neville to kind of tie this all together. You cannot serve two masters or opposing states of consciousness at the same time. Taking your attention away from one state and placing it upon the other, you die to the one from which you have taken it, and you live and express the one in which you are united. Now I urge you to put this teaching into practice. Simply appropriate a subjective state, which is your objective hope, and know it must externalize itself in your world. Do that, and it will. Ask in faith, without a doubt, for those who doubt are like the wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. They are double-minded, for they know what they are while desiring to be something else. You must be single-minded by dropping what you believe you are and assuming that you are already what you desire to be, for you cannot desire something you already possess. Look into the wonderful law of liberty which sets you free, and you will see your freedom in the faces of your friends. Persist in your assumption, and it must come to pass. So we have an idea of what this means to be double-minded and how it affects us and how it affects our manifestation process. But how do we get over this? How can we get over being double-minded and instead be consistent and focused in the state of the wish fulfilled so that we can manifest what we do want? I'm going to give you guys 3 helpful tips on how you can overcome the double-mindedness. Number 1, know what you want and go all in. You must have a burning desire for change. You must really, really know what you want and want it with a burning desire so badly that you are willing to give up all of your old habits, all of your old ways of thinking, all of your old beliefs, assumptions, concepts that you carry, all of that. You must be willing to die to the old man and go completely in to your desired state and go completely in to your imaginal act. You must go all in and buy the pearl. You must buy the pearl of great price. Now, if you're not sure what this means, what I'm talking about when I say the pearl of great price, definitely check out the video that I made all about this topic, about buying the pearl, because it is a very, very important one. I will leave the link to that video up here and down in the description box below. But the main point is that you cannot believe in yourself as the operant power and that your imagination creates reality while simultaneously believing in any outside forces. You either believe in the law and that imagination creates reality, or you don't. If you think that you are believing in the power of your imagination while still clinging to any tiny belief in an outside power, you're not buying the pearl. And as a result, you're not going all in. And again, this is just how most of us were brought up to think and behave and believe, in external forces, that we are a victim of circumstance, that we don't really have the power to change our 3D situations. But we must get out of this mindset. And how do you do that? You must accept every little thing that happens to you as something that you have done, something that you created, whether it was intentional or not. When we test the law intentionally and we see the thing materialize, for a lot of us it's really easy to start to second guess ourselves and ask ourselves, did I really do that? Or would it have happened that way anyways? Could it have just been a coincidence? If you find these thoughts and have these moments yourself, you want to get yourself out of the habit of coming to that mindset and coming to that conclusion. Because quite frankly, there is no such thing as coincidence. And it's time that you start telling yourself so. Because you are constantly manifesting, whether you consciously believe you're doing it or not. And regardless on whether it's the thing that you actually wanted or something else. But the fact that you question it shows that you are still doubting it. And when you're doubting it, you're not going all in. And this is where choosing to believe becomes crucial. Because it might feel sometimes like you don't have a choice in the matter of your doubts. But you do have the choice to say that I in fact did this with my imagination. I did in fact create that scenario, whatever it might be. And be sure to do this anytime that you are testing the law and for anything that comes to pass. When something happens, no matter how big or how small, tell yourself, I did that. And don't try to dwell on this. Don't try to convince yourself one way or the other. Just declare it and move on. And notice how this makes you feel. And at first, you may not be 100% convinced. That's okay. Keep doing it anyways. Because the more that you point out the things that you created, whether they were intentional manifestations or not, the more that you can point to something and say, yeah, I see how I did that. I totally made that happen. Do this with everything. Don't overthink it. Don't complicate it. Just acknowledge that you were the one that created it and move on. And the more that you do this, bit by bit, you're going to start to actually believe it. You're going to start to feel more confident. You're going to start to feel a bit more powerful. And once you're able to slowly and surely build up this faith, you will be better able to go all in. Tip number 2 is to be aware of the state that you're dwelling in. And you do this through your mental diet. You do this by observing your thoughts and reactions throughout your day-to-day. Because remember, those thoughts and those reactions come from the state that you're dwelling in. They are a natural reflex because they come from the state that you're dwelling in. It is so important to remember that your thoughts are automatic to the state that you're dwelling in. So anytime you notice that you're having those doubtful thoughts, anytime that you notice that you are starting to worry or that you're starting to feel insecure and get a sense of unease, these all directly point to the fact that you have fallen out of the state of the wish fulfilled. See, mental diet isn't just about flipping every single negative thought that comes in your mind. Granted, if you can do this, by all means, but it does start to get exhausting after a while. The point of the mental diet is to be aware of the state that you're dwelling in, because your thoughts and reactions are automatic result and directed from the state that you're dwelling in. So if you're having those doubtful thoughts, if you're starting to question if you are in fact doing this, that tells you that you have fallen out of the state of the wish fulfilled. So by being aware and observant and mindful of the thoughts and reactions throughout your day-to-day, the better you're able to catch yourself when you have fallen out of your desired state. And anytime you do start to have those unwanted thoughts creep up, just take a moment, stop, breathe, and imagine again living in the end. Start to conjure up that feeling again of what it feels like having your desire come to pass. Muster up that feeling and try to get all of the senses involved, all of the tones of reality that you can muster, anything that you can do to get back to that feeling of your desired end. You should be doing this anytime that you notice that you're having unwanted and doubtful thoughts. Anytime there's something that points to the unwanted state, you know to get back on track. Immerse yourself in the feeling of your wish fulfilled until those unwanted and negative thoughts naturally dissipate. And you want to do this anytime those contradictory thoughts come up in your mind. You want to get yourself back into the desired state as much as possible. This is how our desired state becomes the dominant state that we dwell in. So always, always, always be mindful of the thoughts, of your reactions through your day-to-day. Your thoughts are a direct indicator of the state that you are currently dwelling in, and they will let you know if you have fallen out of that state of the wish fulfilled. They will let you know if you are in fact being double-minded. So take a moment when that happens to imagine the feeling, feel the feeling, and get yourself back on track. Tip number 3, last but not least, is to discipline the focus and direction of your mind. Several times a day, I see people all over the place and talk to people that say the same thing, that they can't imagine in the state akin to sleep. They can't visualize without their mind wandering. They can't do SATs without falling asleep first. I can't do X because of Y. And all of these hindrances point to the same issue. They're all essentially the same problem. And that is a lack of a disciplined mind. Here is the biggest thing that I want you all to remember, if nothing else. Neville never taught people how to change their reality. Neville only taught people how to change their mind, and more specifically, how to change the direction and the attention of their mind. So I cannot stress this point enough, especially if you are new to this. You must train the direction and focus of your mind. You must observe where you are placing your attention in your day-to-day. Because if you think about it, before any of us stumbled onto the topic of manifesting, and before we learned about any of the techniques, none of us, or should I say most of us, very few of us, actually ever had a disciplined mind to begin with. Our whole lives, we've kind of let our minds just go wherever it wants to go and dwell on all the things that we typically don't want. So our minds going into this practice are very untamed. Our mind is like a wild animal. So when we lay down and we try to focus and we try to envision our scene and loop it, the mind is naturally going to want to fight it. It's going to want to wander off. You're going to start to fidget. You're going to start to get uncomfortable. This is normal because, again, most of us are going into this with an untamed mind. We must train our mind to go where we want it to go. We must train our mind to redirect if we find that we are dwelling on something that we don't want. This is something that for most people, if you have not practiced this, it's going to feel unruly and difficult at first. This is normal. This is completely normal. This is why so many people tend to struggle with SATs when we are new at this. And this is also why we tend to get double-minded, because we are not training the direction and focus of our mind. We are not disciplined enough when it comes to our focus and where we are placing our attention in our day-to-day. This is something that you must work on. This is something that is going to take some practice if this is something you have not been used to doing before. And there are a number of ways that you can go about doing this. My favorite, and the one that I recommend the most, is through meditation and focusing on the breath. But however this looks for you, whatever works best for you, you want to start incorporating exercises every day that is going to strengthen that focus and that attention of your mind, so that when it starts to wander, you can bring it back, and you can bring it back. And it becomes less and less difficult the more that you train it to go where you want it to go. Now, I know for a lot of people, this may seem very challenging at first, but again, learning to discipline your mind is a very small price to pay for getting the things that you want, for being able to manifest whatever it is that you want. But you can choose to either pay that small price to discipline your mind, or you can continue to wallow in despair and keep manifesting the things that you don't want. So choose wisely. At the end of the day, our goal needs to be consistency. Our highest aim and achievement should be to get to a place of single-mindedness, to where we can allow ourselves and submerge ourselves and keep ourselves in that feeling of the end, in living in that desired outcome. As Neville used to say, nothing has happened to you that wasn't set into motion first in imagination. So we must learn to be the ones to take the rope when it comes to our minds, when it comes to wavering. We must go all in. We must be aware of the state that we're dwelling in. And we must be able to direct and focus our attention on what it is that we do want. This comes through mental discipline. This comes through training your mind to go only where you want it to go. I've said it before and I will say it a million times. Manifestation is mind mastery. It is getting to a place where you are no longer entertaining anything that no longer serves you and anything that does not line up with the complete and total desired outcome that you want to live. This is all about trusting ourselves as the creator and trusting that through our imagination we can create to experience anything that we want. So by training the direction of your mind, by going all in and claiming your power, and by being aware of the state that you are dwelling and where you are lurking in consciousness, when you are able to master this, when you are able to get back to a single-minded position, and when you're able to stop going back and forth and start to set yourself right on track with the desired outcome, occupying that state and where you desire to be, that is how you master your mind. And that is how you manifest the life that you have always wanted. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you're interested in checking out any of my other resources, I'll have links down below to my one-on-one coaching, my blog, my social channels, my new membership group, and my podcast. Lots of stuff down there, so definitely don't forget to check it out. Also, do not forget to check out these videos over here. Each video is a different topic, but they all go into how to manifest the best life possible. So until we meet again, take care, be well, and never forget to take the leap of faith and go all in. This is how you manifest anything that you want. Happy manifesting, guys.